Newsnight is three Museveni era children. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I have Jacob Eyeru, who is the former ESC Youth Ambassador, Uganda. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Manzi Solomon, construction manager. He's also a poet with the Lantern Meet of Poets. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And of course, Jordan Tumwesije, President Makelo Society.
Glad to be here.
Let me start with you, Jordan. For the period, I don't want to ask you how old you are, but you are branded as a Museveni era child, the millennial kind of guy.
Yes.
What does this government mean for you?
One thing this government means to me and so many of my generation is that because we are youth that have grown up so much into the era of technology.
Yeah.
So when we see scenarios such as ones that have happened today of blocking of social media to something that resonates with people of my generation, then the government doesn't appear to me as one that respects freedom of expression, which is very important for people of my particular age.
Aren't you trivializing the discussion to social media?
No.
Shouldn't we say this is beyond social media?
It is, of course it's beyond social media. This discussion is actually broad. I wanted to bring in the aspect of freedom of expression, because freedom of expression is very important. The youth of today is very opinionated and they want to express themselves. Now when you go and you block social media, then they will not resonate with that particular government. So the youth already are calling this particular government as a dictatorship, as totalitarian. So these are expressions from a youth because they've been barred from expressing themselves freely, a right that is guaranteed under the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda.
Right.
Yes.
Do you share the same feeling? Would you, in your era, say, okay, because I can't access WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, mention them, therefore this government would lose the credit?
You see, I have had the luxury of surveying the region as opposed to Jordan's independent view of the country. And so I know for sure that a blockage of WhatsApp or Twitter is indeed a curtailing of the freedom of expression, at least to the extent of social media. But I cannot say that it is ultimately the curtailing of the whole freedom, because I know that for security measures, some of these are necessary. I know for sure that in places like Egypt, it was social media that catapulted what we saw as the Arab uprising. Okay, so it therefore means that as a country, we need to take on responsibility, and part of that responsibility might be helped for us if we cannot achieve it. However, I am of the view that it is not necessary to block social media if you can't block it ultimately. Before I came here, I was on social media. Jordan was on social media. I don't know.
You guys will be arrested. But Manzi, you've seen one president.
Yes, I have, unfortunately.
Why would you say that?
Unfortunately, because I feel the world is meant to be progressive. And like any other facet of society, the politics of a country reflect the standard or measure of growth that country registers. So every time you have a single face pinned up on corporate boardrooms and in classrooms all over the country and in parliament, and it's the same voice, it's the same ideas, it's the same notions of development, then we have the freezing in time of a society. We have the stagnation of an entire populace that is meant to be moving forward, that is meant to be making a lot of headway.
If that leader is making progress for all that time.
Which is not the case with Uganda.
Why do you say that?
Clearly, I think like my colleagues have pointed out, this government has reached a cusp in the trajectory of its tenure where they are beginning to act desperately. We have seen the clamp down on media freedoms and fundamental human rights like the freedom of individual expression. We have seen the clampdown on political parties, opposition political parties. We have seen a lot of rot and dilapidation in the social service provision institutions and infrastructure, healthcare, education, political economy, all sorts of places, yeah.
If someone asked you, for example, when was the last time you went to a public hospital? When was the last time you actually had someone there? Because should you have the moral authority to comment on such matters when you have insurance, when you...
Well, should I go first?
Please.
All right. Certainly, I think we have the moral authority because we are Ugandans, and even if we as individuals may not necessarily use those facilities, not because we do not wish or because we feel we are morally superior to fellow Ugandans that use them, it's because we do not feel safe entrusting our lives to those particular institutions. So if we have an option, why not take it up? Nonetheless, that notwithstanding, we have friends, we have family, you know, that are not necessarily as well off as we are, who make use of these institutions, which are incompetent, which are mismanaged, and are therefore giving a raw deal to the people of this country. Yeah, so we have the moral authority in every respect. Right.
Many people would say that the young people are now misled. You are the pioneers of this opposition thing, the change is coming, and ideally that comes from the fact that you are millennials. You just can't be doing one thing. Even if the change that you're desiring right now comes, 2 years later, you're going to be, we are tired. Can we have change? And that's where young people are.
You see, I come from the eastern region. I cannot be party to a conversation I was not born into. The conversation of this country had war, and you have to appreciate the peace now. I appreciate peace, but my conversation starts from a position of a peaceful country. So if I'm going to analyze this country, I will analyze it from where my position comes in, and that is in the peaceful era. So the conversation I will have with the public is a conversation of working infrastructure, a conversation of socio-economic development, and I will compare that with other nations. So if a young person today, born in 92 like I am, feels that the country is not moving at the pace I see other countries moving at, I will call for change. I'll call for change in what I believe to be right. And if I feel that having one president for all that time is wrong, I will call for change on just those grounds. It is not enough by human nature to be told that we are steadily progressing. It's not enough. Human nature must be a part of that progress. We must feel it. If in the eastern region I know that the schools are no longer performing as well as they used to, if I see that for the northern region, I will say that in education we are not progressing. In as much as wholesomely we can say we have channeled more graduates today, we have channeled, that is only a substance or a product of our population growth. So the young people need to be addressed in their stature. Their stature is they are a post-war generation. They cannot be party to a discussion of peace and liberation. No, they are only party to a discussion of progress based on socio-economic trends that the country has undertaken.
Is it difficult to have the conversation because as far as you're concerned, peace is a given, great education is a given because you went to the St. Mary's College of this world. We excelled during that time when education was awesome, the teachers did their jobs. Does that make it hard to separate yourself from?
Like my colleagues, I'm going to distance myself from speaking about what transpired before. You see, we the youth are tired of this whole thing of, in our days we saw war, in our days we are tired of that.
But in our parents' days there was war, and we are, well, and partly products of that. So.
And Brian, I would want us to appreciate the fact that peace does not necessarily mean absence of war. In this particular situation, just because there are no gunshots blazing around all over the place, doesn't mean that there is actually peace. So when you curtail media freedoms, you cannot say there is peace. When you clamp down on someone's right to demonstrate, to express themselves freely, you cannot say if there is peace.
That person is breaking the law.
Well, that's
what happened.
That is subject to debate.
That's a discussion of responsibility, and I think that our young people appreciate that much. But what our young people will never understand is how you become a determinant of intentions. Say if I think that he is intending to break the law, how do I determine that? So our generation is a generation that likes to survey the truth. We try to open everything, check the validity and the truth in it. If we feel there is no truth about it, we'll shout about it on social media. So we have come to a generation where governments have to bear the wrath of free will, of free opinions, and bear them from every direction: social media, print media, blogs, every direction. So governments must be more responsive to the needs of those voices.
Yes. Let's look at the legacy of the president going into the next 5 years even. As young people,
yes,
there's huge unemployment.
Oh, yes.
And in the same breath, I'd like you to address the issue of youth employability. Because most of you are speaking, saying bombastic words here. And then when I call you for an interview, you guys can't produce anything for the employer. So even employers fear to get you in because you're not producing results.
I think, Brian, there's a bit of a misnomer there. The whole issue of employability or lack thereof is really about the level of preparation that the educational institutions have imparted upon the young people. So when you have a whole slate or an array of educational institutions that have largely been abandoned by the state, which is very remiss and incompetent, like my peers have pointed out, then you have an end product that is a victim. It is not the villain. It is not the young people of this country who are poorly educated, who are poorly prepared to face the employment world, who are villains. They are victims. And it is about time that the state began to have a conversation with its young people especially. Because Uganda is one of the youngest countries in the world.
Yes.
Yeah. So it is time for the state to begin having a conversation with its people. If there is need for retraining, post-graduation, if there is need for vocationalization of the field or of the education sector, why not? Should be done.
I think it should be added that employability is a product of nurture and not nature. So we cannot blame the young people for the quality of nurture.
Yes.
No, we cannot. We have to blame those responsible for nurture, and that will go back to the institutions and all that. So that becomes a discussion of policy, which is again a prerequisite of governance. So it is not our fault that we are unemployable.
Under 30 seconds, for each of you, what do you want the president, the NR, the current government to focus on in the next 5 years?
I, for one, I envision a government that is democratic or pretends to be, accepting people to express themselves, tolerating people's rights, actually, and not coming outrightly to actually clamp down on those rights. If the government is able to do that within the next 5 years, which I wouldn't expect them to, I would respect the government.
So for you, it's about freedom of expression.
Yes, human rights and rule of law.
Right.
For me, it's about making our initiatives work. Our country has brilliant initiatives. We currently have 6 funds per district. But the youth fund, the innovation fund, the women's fund, we never get returns from those funds. And this whole idea of getting people rich at the grassroots doesn't work. We just increase the prices of goods by putting more money because we are not skilling the people in what we are funding them to do. So I think we need to make our funds work and therefore have grassroots growth and not growth from the horizons.
All right. I am not a doomsday sayer, neither am I a prophet of doom. However, I feel that this government has reached the end of its tether, basically, under the leadership of the man that is visibly tired. Yes, it is evidently exhausted. So they need to prepare for transition. They need to be able.
For you, that's what you want them to focus on.
Transition, handing over to another crop of leaders that will propel Uganda into the future that it is destined for.
Manzi, speaking like a prophet. Manzi, Jacob, and Jordan. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us
Thank you.
Well, just hours away, the swearing in of the president. Huge discussions on the next 5 years. Where do we take this? We asked you in our opinion poll on Facebook and Twitter. Some of you are not connected now. I guess VPN can be the solution like this gentleman did. But continue that conversation there. And tomorrow we'll be bringing you the swearing in live from 7 a.m. at the Kolo Independence Ground. That's Newsnight.